Hey, this is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's January 31st. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was mostly all downhill today. Um, we actually had a two-tiered channel that was working lower here. We had a break, and there's a couple of three legs down to a new low, and then we had a little correction, and then we had two more legs down to a new low. Um, Before we actually reversed and took most of the down move back today. So, and in addition to that, it looked like it might have been a spiking channel with this trend line, but look, it still played out, and that's why I think this was a little bit harder to decipher here. I had this trend line on there. I wasn't sure if it was legit, but we do get a break, and notice we got one leg down, correction, and the second measured leg down, and then we reversed. So I think that had a little bit to do with why once we had this move down, we got another one. But also, if you measure this leg, which is the first leg down after the break, and then you get the next leg, we almost had two measured legs still, but there's a lot of swings in there for this chart level. So I don't want to complicate this or confuse people by getting too far ahead of them. But I believe what happened was there were a lot of people that see this too in the break, and then we still got two legs down before it reversed. And I wasn't sure this one was legit because you really can't make it fit well here, but if you put it here, it does fit. It looks like we maybe had an overshoot, which that's not uncommon. And a lot of times you need that midline just to verify it. And you can see there does appear to be a midline right in there that fits perfectly as well. So um, I think that's what was going on here. But in addition to that, I'm going to leave that on there. I'll leave these both on here. But in addition to what we've already talked about, notice how we're consistently above and below the EMA. Um, Generally, even in a downtrend or an uptrend, if you're getting that swinging back and forth above and below, you can almost trade it both ways because it does have a range kind of feel to it. And you can see right here, up really until we went lower here, this had a real range feel to it. So that's why you see a couple of longs in here um, as well. So, but I'm going to back out and we'll talk about the trade. Just back out a little bit more here so it's a little easier to see. But in the end, I really think the brown channel was probably the better one to play. I played the blue one, and of course I was playing this one on the way up, and then we turned back down, and you had another one here to play as well. Most all of these worked out properly. Okay, I've having 100 interruptions here. I can't get this thing done, so I apologize. But uh, in the end, I think you're better off to play the two-tiered brown channel. And as you can see, the blue one would have gotten you there, but you might have got a little confusing in here. But anytime you see it slant over like that, always draw that next trend line, and you can see it was playing out pretty well. We got a break here, but it still got the two legs down, and that turned out to be the low of the day. We looked like we were going to try to come lower again, but this thing was real range-like, so that's not surprising that it did that. If you used your trend lines, everything still played out, and it kept you on the right side for the most part. So um, anyway, let's talk about the trades. There's a nice second entry short here. We're kind of working down at this point. You've got this trend line coming down. This looked like an obvious midline because the other side was over here. And I really was hoping we'd go lower here, but it bounces. But you still get a second entry short right here. Notice the new swing low. First entry, second entry. Even though that doesn't look real bearish, it is. It's just, it could have flicked down and closed just as easy as it did. It's just one tick off the bottom of a very large bar. So that's good enough. That's good for a nice short. And then it bounces here at the overnight low, just at the open. It was tempting to go long here. This is a good example of why you don't want to go long until the trend plays out, because you would have got burned here. Now when it turns and gives a double test of that level, and you've already got a double bottom there, I felt pretty good going long then. It's still, this could almost be green because you still got this trend line with no break of it, but you got enough reasons here to think you're going to get a bounce now. But it is real close to the EMA, and you do have this trend line to worry about. It pushes right on through with no problems. It's a fairly quick and easy move. And plus, you're still looking for it to retest the high of this little short-term trend line. There's actually a little channel there. If you copy it and move it over, you can see that actually moved the wrong line. But you can see that little channel working up. You get a break, move to a new high, and then it turns down. If you'd have got a nice bearish bar up here, I would have been against going short, but you don't. You get a lower high here, but it's right back into that support. So you really need a trap or something, and then you get the failed second entry, the reversal type pattern right here, and that's a fairly bearish bar. Again, you could almost argue for this one to be green because it's back into that support, and then you can see how many times we bounced there. But but with that being the trap and a failed second entry long and a fairly bearish bar, I felt pretty good about it. Plus, at this point, you had another confirmation of this brown line, so you had to be thinking that, hey, this could be the trend, and we may be headed much lower. So that turns out to be a really nice trade. And then notice, too, that this is also a little double top, so that's like a new high, and you get another reversal here after it's like a double test, trying to go higher again, and another trap and a big bearish bar. So I like going short right there for another leg down. And then, of course, it does bounce. Here's your reversal pattern. Notice the new low, and you get a first entry. You move up, you get a second entry. And I would have liked for this to bounce off of this EMA first. And then also you had to be aware of this. So I'm not crazy about this one, but it does, we are working up right here. And so you got enough room really to get out before you get back up here or back up to this area. So you could treat this like a trap, and it was a second entry counting off the high. I think I skipped over this one. Notice that it looks like you get a little close outside. It's very questionable if that's strong enough. So I'm not really looking for shorts yet, but we got an overshoot here, and then we got that trap. It went up and turned and went right down the other side. So you might have considered going short there. But then when it bounces here, you probably definitely want to go long for that reason that I talked about on that one a minute ago. But if you did go short here, I want to get in before, I don't want to get in one tick below that bar because it doesn't leave you much room, and it's right into the EMA. I want it, if it, once it broke lower, if you could get in there with a limit order a little higher up, I'm okay with that one. I believe if you used a stop, it was a 4-tick failure. You would have only got 4 ticks, and you probably wouldn't have got out on a limit order, and it would have bounced on you, and of course you'd have got stopped out here. And so now you got another test of this, what was support acting as resistance, and with a swinging back and forth above and below the EMA, I'm thinking, hey, this could just end up being a range day. So you might want to take that trade. Again, I think it's a little aggressive. It turns out to be a great trade, but I think you're better off to skip really both of those. And then this one is borderline being green. But for all the reasons I talked about, you could take that long. And then now you got a break of this one, and you got one leg down, and you don't quite have a new low yet, so it starts working back up. There is a reversal here. I don't like it. If you'd have taken it, it would have worked. And since it is a reversal type pattern, I probably could mark it. It's almost a repeat pattern of this over here, just in a smaller version of it. It almost looks identical. So you might go with that one being green. But when it turns down here, I like this. It makes that little trap again. And this looks very similar to something we had up here earlier. I can't remember where it was. But it's almost a repeat pattern too. And once we start heading lower, I would measure this leg and look for a measured leg. And then you get, notice what happens here. You got a new high, pull back first entry, you pull back second entry, it fails instantly. and it goes higher and turns and goes out the other side. It is right back into some more support, so you might have let it break lower and drop a limit order in. But we're probably going to get a new low, so it's probably going to go below this one now, and hopefully you'll get a measured move. And then, of course, so now you got a break of the brown channel and 2 legs down to a new low. So, hey, we might get a reversal here. And sure enough, you get your reversal pattern right here. Go long right there. Notice the new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It fails. You get a really bullish bar there. The fact that it didn't break above here is a little concerning, but it still ends very bullish, and it's got a higher low. So I still think you're all right to go long there. And this turns out to be a really nice trade. And then, of course, right up in here in the same area between 22.68 and 22.69, it turns back down. And it comes back, and it tests that level again. But I still don't think that's enough to go short yet. If you'd gone short right there, it would have worked. But wait on see if you get another lower high, and you do right here. And again, it turns up and turns and goes down the other side. Just go short there. And that turns out to be a nice trade as well. A couple of these shorts late in the afternoon were pretty good trades, or later in the day, I should say. Actually, this wasn't late in the day. This was late morning, mid-morning. And then we bounce, and at this point I would have, once we started going higher, I'd have measured this leg and looked for at least that to happen. And you can see we actually went much further. We just continued on. So, but you got a clear trend line working up here. This is not a perfect reversal, but it's a higher low, and look how we shot right through the EMA. We pulled back, and the thing is, it's right off that trend line too. Basically a nice bullish bar. And so I like going long there, looking for it, if nothing else, a shorter term measured leg like that one. And you can see we went way past that. So, but I did make that one green because it's not a perfect reversal pattern. Would like to see a failed second entry short, which we just don't get right there. So, but this time the market was reversing, and so yeah, this one could be a little difficult for somebody that's not really versed in price action. So if you struggle today, don't let it get you down. This one was a little bit difficult to see, especially if you didn't see the brown channel, and even it was confusing because if you use the very low, things didn't fit. But what it is, I think it's right here, and we just had that overshoot early during the overnight session, and that's not uncommon to see overshoots and breaks in the overnight session that don't follow through, and they don't actually follow through and play out the same in the regular session. You still need to get a break or an overshoot before things that you expect to happen. So and then again, we're shooting back and forth above and below the EMA, so it's playing a lot like a range day does as well. So, yeah, but not much else we can say about it. I'm continually getting distractions here this afternoon. I'm going to wrap this one up. I apologize, but it's been a busy day around here for me, and I've got some other things going on too. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.